Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. May I have a motion and a second to excuse members Ware and Fonte? So moved. Second. Yes.
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 Peters.
Yes.
And Surratt.
Yes.
5 yes, excuse Councilwoman Ware and Councilman Fontaine.
Thank you very much. Now, may I have a motion and a second to approve as presented council meeting minutes May 9th and June 13th, 2016. Committee of the whole meeting minutes May 2nd and May 16th, 2016. Special committee of the whole meeting minutes May 23rd, 2016. Motion to approve as presented.
Second. Griffin.
Abstain.
Peterson.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Surratt.
Yes.
And Folds.
Yes.
4 yes, 1 abstain for the approval of minutes.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Doug Lane, President of North Canton City, or North Canton Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. President, appreciate that. North Canton Chamber has been a member of the Stark County Broadband Initiative since 2014. We support its mission of promoting faster and reliable, affordable broadband for our area. North Canton and Stark County need to be ready for the 21st century. You'll see after this presentation why. Our future is tied to connections with the world. Recently attended the ICF Summit. If you remember, they held a few of them at Walsh, and they just had a recent one in Columbus. And all 7 finalist cities were integrating vibrant broadband as a key component in their appeal to businesses, their residents, and their visitors. The Chamber knows the importance of affordable broadband to our future, and we ask for your support of the initiative following co-chair Mark Schneider's presentation. It's my privilege to introduce Mark Schneider.
Well, thank you. First of all, it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for taking the time out of the busy schedule. I'm going to have some slides up here, and if anybody needs to rearrange themselves a little bit, I'll walk you through them. One of the things that we did when we started to talk about how we were going to bring higher speed and higher quality broadband to Stark County was we started looking for some friends. And those are some of our friends up there. We have over 30 members of our active committee. And as you can see, most of those are large employers are represented, as well as small community groups, nonprofits, and other governments. We're not unlike other community self-organized groups. You'd find these in Virginia and Carolinas and Texas and so forth. But when we look at Stark County, our major mission here is to figure out governance. We want to figure out how any sort of high-speed broadband could be governed so that we can go forward with either public-private, or a private initiative that can give us 21st century speeds in terms of internet connection. The other thing that we wanted to take a look at was how we're going to pay for it. And that's exceptionally important, because any initiative that we have is, we really can't go forward if we're going to saddle our future generations with us. Hopefully, lose my, apparently I just lost my connection here. There you go. And the last thing we're going to take a look at is also Fushona. So to answer all those questions, we brought on board a nationally recognized consultant by the name of Magellan Advisors. And they're going to be conducting surveys and interviews over the course of the next couple months, and then help us produce a report that we're going to share with everyone in the October timeframe. And Magellan recently completed one just recently for Hudson. And Hudson has gone ahead with their own broadband plan that I'll share with you in a little bit. So, a little quiz for you. Next. What's, on any given year, what is our most valuable export? Next. So, some people might think, well, it's ATM machines. Next. Some people might think it's football. Some people might think it's steel. But I'll give you a couple of hints. And those hints would be that each one costs about $275,000. We ship about 1,000 each year to every corner of the world, and they're irreplaceable. Anybody know what they are? Oh, yeah, and I should mention they take about 18 years. Yeah, there are graduates. And those represent $275 million worth of human capital we lose every year. And that's conservative. That's just 1,000. We probably lose around 1,500. So each year, if you look at that 1,000, those that will not return, they'll generate about $26 million in earnings a year over their lifetime and pay $8 million a year in taxes in their lifetime. And they'll be trained and educated in work that currently we have important infrastructure and support and will live in more competitive marketplaces. So I think one of the things that we have to do is unless we change the aspirations of our communities to compete, but to win, we will lose our most gifted. And you know, I changed that slide. It used to just be compete, but after last week, I say now we're going to win. Because we can. We've changed, I think, the definition of what Northeast Ohio is over the last 52 years. So, if you look at other places, this is the 3rd Avenue in New York City. New York only has 4 traditional phone booths any longer. And this is what they're turning into. They're turning into these kiosks that not only can you charge your phone and also get directions, but they also pump out gigabit Wi-Fi that's free. So if you go anywhere in New York City in the near future, over 7,500 public Wi-Fi kiosks are going to be pumping out gigabit Wi-Fi. Way better than what you can get at home. So we see, one of the other beliefs that we believe, is that the rise of the app economy and the massive delivering of cloud computing has put a greater emphasis on persistent networks everywhere. You know, just recently, the Supreme Court ruled that broadband, or not the appellate court in D.C., ruled that broadband isn't a luxury anymore. It's a utility. Because rarely can we do anything without consulting or looking at our phones or looking something up on our desktops. So, let's look a little bit at Stark County. Now, my day job, I'm the Director of Innovation at Hope and Health Foundation. And so, we are very concerned about the direction of Stark County. And I think it's impossible for any of our nonprofits and our commercial organizations to really start to think about how we can have any sort of progress or success without thinking about these current metrics. And over the last 13 years or so, unfortunately, Stark County's gotten older, we've gotten poorer, and we've gotten fewer. So if you just look at older, between 2000 and 2013, the people over the age of 65 went from 15.1% to 16.6%. And that was a rise of almost 10%. And then in the same time period, people at or below the poverty line went from 9.2% to 15%. And that was a breathtaking 63% rise. And then also, in the terms of population, we went from 378,000 to 374,000. And while that was only a 1% loss, keep in mind, so the people over the age of 65 went up by 10%. So the number of working people actually diminished greatly. And the rest of the United States grew by 13% in the same time frame. So we think, what sort of initiative could we have locally in Stark County that could address all of these issues? What sort of thing could we do on a community-wide basis that could make our community more attractive, more competitive, and more ready for 21st century opportunities? So 1 gigabit speeds are kind of off the shelf. They're not that hard to put in. They're they're the same price than we currently have, but they're also 40 times faster than what we currently can get. And the reason that we don't get this is because we don't have competition. We simply do not have the synergies of competition to be able to force our current suppliers of internet to provide us with speeds that are faster and more reliable, or cheaper. So if you look at Ohio download speeds, this is the consequence of not having any sort of overbuilding. It's kind of hard to see there, but Ohio ranks 5th out of the 6 contiguous states that touch us. And if it weren't for Kentucky, we would be dead last in terms of download speeds. Now keep in mind the FCC classifies broadband as 25 megabits or higher, and we're at 18.4. Just locally, Canton and Alliance rank 65th and 64th just in Ohio. So we're not even competitive in Ohio. Now, if you look, the University of Colorado had a study that was published in the Wall Street Journal last year about how you can add about 3% to the price of a home by adding fast broadband. And we look at this as an essential role of government is to raise the property values of homes. And if you think about raising the price of a home by 3% by just running a wire to it, rather than having a contractor camp out for 3 months, that's a pretty big deal. Also, when you consider the billions of dollars worth of infrastructure that we have that could be affected by this, a 3% rise in that billion would be a pretty good deal. We'll pay for everything. So if you look at history as a guide, when we put utilities underneath labor forces, when we put electrification, sewage, and water under labor forces, we were able to generate the largest amount of wealth increase in the United States that we've ever seen. Now, I'm a technologist by trade, and I'd lose all my street cred if I didn't point out right across the street is where the birth of home automation began. We're in the second wave of home automation where we now have intelligent robotics that are doing those things in our homes. But if it weren't for the electric dustpan in the Hoover Company, we wouldn't see the rapid advances in home automation that we have today. So, let's just look at water. The Canton Water Department, as an example. Back in 1957, they borrowed $7.6 million to pay for the Sugar Creek water field. That was 400 acres, and also 20 miles of tunnels to bring water to the city of Canton. That's equivalent to $63 million today. Now, when was the last time we saw anybody spend $63 million on infrastructure, especially at a municipal level? Now, without this, Stark County would not have a steel industry. This more than doubled the water supply at the time. And while Canton had an excess amount of water, as we well know, for many years after. And the reason why is because all of the steelmaking capacity in the United States is located next to a body of water, except in Canton. So, this is an opportunity for us to build community broadband, and it's a chance to change community aspirations and the trajectory of history. So, if you look at other communities nearby, this would be Fairlawn and Hudson, they've already gone ahead of us, even though I think we started talking earlier than we did. So we think about what are the best broadband utility models, and this would be a neighborhood by neighborhood approach, a standard 1 gig in commercial service, and up to 100 gig in commercial service. That would be 400 times faster than your best broadband here in Stark County. So, let's just compare a Google Fiber, which is it's a gigabit service that you can get in Kansas City, to Time Warner Northeastern Ohio. So that's $70 a month in Kansas City for 1 gig up and down, and Akron Canton is Time Warner for $64.99, and there's some asterisks after that. Let's see what those asterisks mean. Yeah, okay. That's what those asterisks mean. And basically, if you zero in on this, there's one little phrase in there that says that after a period of time, they can charge you whatever they want, whatever the time is at the time. So, long story short is Time Warner's is 50 meg down and 5 meg up, which is 18 times more expensive than per downloaded byte, and 185 times more expensive than per uploaded byte. And if you look at how they laid this out, it's $70 a month for gigabit broadband, $50 a month for 100 gig, or $130 a month for gigabit plus, I think, 400 channels of TV. So, and then commercials are $100 a month. And there's some nice things that you get with commercial. Now, how does that compare to what, let's say, Altman's paying at, let's say, Altman Woodlawn? Well, that's $100 a month versus $2,400 a month that we're paying at Altman Woodlawn. It's a 24x for the same service. It's hard to believe that we would be competitive to someone who is very sensitive to those prices. So, if we look at possible net topography, about 60% of the population of Stark County lives up and down Whipple Road, as do 2 of our largest commercial office parks. So if we were to build that out, if it's 11 miles from Fairlawn to the airport, and we ran a couple of loops through the downtown area and then out through Jackson Township, and we have that one loop that pretty much goes right through North Canton and through the industrial park, we think that we could catch quite a number of people with the very first go-around. And also, it's only 11 miles, so really you're only talking about 30-some miles of cable. So now there would be lots of different laterals to lots of different things, and we don't have a price on that yet. But what we're trying to do, first of all, is complete our study, which would be in October. We want to share with you folks and be able to get very good feedback as to what our next possible moves are. So our ask is pretty simple. We'd like to help you have you help us answer the questions: who should own it, who should run it, how much it will cost. And considering devoting your time and resources to preparing us for the future, and use your network to find opportunities for this to advance. Now, what we've done recently is we've started to ask some of the different municipalities and other townships for non-binding resolutions, and I've supplied a copy of that to Mary Beth, and I'd like you to, as a body, take a look at that and consider adopting that yourself. It's basically just saying that you would, you're encouraged by what we're doing, and that at some point in time in the future, you'd like to help us answer those questions. What that does is that it's something that we can put on our binders and tell my boss at the hospital that I'm doing my job. But more than anything else, it also helps communicate the aspirations of our community to our voters and to the other folks who are involved in this. This is something that I think is, the time has come. It's no longer a luxury. The internet and its speeds, and especially the digital future that we have for our communities, is of the utmost importance. We really can't wait much longer. And I can answer any questions if the President of Council will so permit.
Absolutely.
Mark, what's the cost to do the basic infrastructure piece that you had mapped out there?
That would run in around about a $10 to $12 million order. Really, most of the amount of money in something like that is going to be in the switch. And the switch is where we would like to bring together quite a number, maybe 5 or 6 different wholesale internet suppliers. And there's a couple of switches that are already in Stark County today. But really, if you think about the economics of this, is trying to aggregate our demand. If we can aggregate our demand and bring all these folks together, the Altmans, the Timkins, the residential people of the world, the small businesses, the nonprofits, the other municipalities, if we can bring that demand together, we can start to ask for better pricing and higher speeds. And that switch, hopefully, these things are kind of off the shelf, but they're expensive. Will allow us to also be able to switch back and forth to any internet supplier that we would want at any time. There's some new technology out there that's coming along the way. We'd love to take advantage of that. We don't want to build too much out to begin with and then find out that we're obsolete quickly. So we want to be able to take a sort of a stair-step approach to it.
Are you thinking about more of a public utility approach, or are you thinking about a partnership with Google?
We would love to entertain any of those. The main thing that we are advocating above anything else is the need for competition. With competition in the American experience, all things good happen, especially to consumers and to people who use these things. And we simply don't have enough competition in our marketplace today.
I was going to ask another question that escapes me, sorry.
Okay, so let's see how this works with the average low-ball educated internet person like myself. Okay, so if you run this wire down here, okay, so it's down there. Now where does it go from there? Everybody goes to everybody's homes, then they have to pay to get it hooked up. You got another line, and all that's just a complete new, you know, like AT&T did here several years ago, right? Sure.
If you look at what, let's say, Fairline is doing right now, Fairline borrowed $10 million from the Summit County Development Authority. They are constructing public Wi-Fi right now, high-speed public Wi-Fi, so that everybody can hook up early. And then they're going to be running high-speed, this would be 10 gigabit speeds to their office park and to their commercial structures. And then they're also going to be running gigabit speeds to residences over the next year or so. There's going to be some digging, there's going to be some infrastructure work, but for those people who don't opt in, they'll be able to use the public Wi-Fi, which is going to be a lot better than what they currently have.
Is the same true for Hudson?
Yeah, Hudson right now is running, they're primarily running this to the downtown area and to their office park. And next year, they're going to start getting started with residences. Now the thing, both of these, and Hudson is a little bit, they have a year on Fairlawn. They're getting 80% uptake on this. Now you can get these things to cash flow if you run a wire and you get 30% of the people to hook up to them. 80% is fantastic. And so this is a tremendous amount of success. I would also point out that Dublin, Ohio has been well ahead of all of us on this. And in fact, they've recently helped Columbus win the most connected city award in the world just this past week. And along with that came a $40 million grant. So these are opportunities that we have, and we have the infrastructure, we have the people, we have, all we need to have is the will and the foresight to be able to do these sorts of things.
Are Hudson and Fairlawn running theirs like an internal municipal utilities at their structure?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hudson, first of all, has their own public utility electrical company. So they have experience on guys with poles and so forth. But they didn't go that way. They actually hired that out. They actually had some contractors run it for them. And they also didn't intermingle that with their billing. They also got a separate billing system too. And they were able to hire that out through a cloud service. So they pretty much did it all turnkey without having to really hire too many more people. I think there's like 3 people that they hired. So it was a pretty low impact for them. Now they did spend $800,000 of general fund money last year, and then about a $1.2 million this year of general fund money. But they're getting that back pretty quickly as they go along. Fairlawn didn't have any public infrastructure, so that's why they had to borrow $10 million.
Any other questions, Mayor?
Yes, it was really interesting to see what Fairlawn did, and I think it was Fujitsu that they contracted with. But the risk was that the city would have to borrow the money with the understanding that they would recoup that, correct?
That's correct, yeah. The Fujitsu, and also I believe there's another carrier in there that's actually providing content.
Yes.
They're simply doing that basically as a third-party service. I believe they have different performance levels that if they get so many subscribers, the price comes down for them a little bit as they go along. But yeah, the city is taking on that risk. And now municipalities, and I would point out that this same holds true for North Canton, you have the ability to pass ordinances that also can make the cost of putting something like this dramatically different. Right away, up until recently, was something that municipalities could pass ordinances to demand. Now, with the FCC treating the internet as a utility now, pole rights are now considered negotiable. They're no longer exclusive. And this allows us to think about this in a more expansive way as to a countywide effort, where we can put together a string of pearls of North Canton, Plain Township, Jackson Township, and a variety of other folks that all have a common interest to be able to go to this together. So there's an opportunity for us to share risk. It's an opportunity for the municipalities, especially to lower costs by passing ordinances where we can put more things underground, by doubling up our conduit space and a variety of other things. So those are opportunities that we can have a negotiation with.
So it's really like in Fairlawn, there's one company that owns the lines, and then another company that's going to be providing the service.
I believe actually the city owns the lines, who's doing the engineering and
There's
installation.
a cost when people purchase the service.
Yeah, I don't know the actual ins and outs of it, but I believe that the ownership is through the city who's borrowing.
And then what about the city of Dover? They have, I believe they have their whole city connected.
I believe so, that's right.
And they got a grant from the federal government. Well, there was a grant to straight up to all the way up like to Bolivar and from Dover, interconnecting that. They're running it through the poles, like right through the utility lines, so that there's some regular cable lines.
Yeah. They have, I think there's a lot of innovation that's taking place in that space, especially from some of the challenges that they have, of only having so much right of way and also having so much capacity and also so much money.
Right.
But it's a big priority right now in the state legislature to try and get, especially the more rural and Appalachian areas of Ohio connected.
Right. I think it's a great idea. I think this is a great plan. I'm glad that you're setting this up. And,
And I would, once again, just encourage you to take a point, have the opportunity to review the resolution and then pass it to your